Step number 4. Okay, Janelle, now I understand Puerto Rico. I understand. I think I'm eligible. What do? Run the numbers. Call your accountant, find out what are your sources of income, and run the numbers. Even though this sounds like a very attractive deal, you have to really make sure that this works for you. And the only way of knowing that is running the numbers. This is a very simple example in which a business running in mainland with state and federal corporate taxes up to 40% and dividend withholding taxes upon distribution of 20% has a net income in a $1 million gross revenue of $448,000. That same business can relocate to Puerto Rico and basically be subject only to a 4% tax rate, providing a net distribution of $960,000. That is basically a tax saving of $512,000 or 51% per each $1 million. And that could be very attractive. Okay, I'm in. What do I do now? Well, you call your tax attorney. Why? Because this is a matter of tax law. And why do I say this? Because as Alberto mentioned, you're subject to Puerto Rico law. You, as U.S. citizens, we're still subject to the U.S. income tax code of 1986. And as residents of Puerto Rico, you're subject to the Puerto Rico code. And you're subject to every other law. So, as I mentioned before, since Puerto Rico is considered a foreign jurisdiction for tax purposes, there comes like an interaction that is basically international tax law. And if you really want to maximize the benefits, you have to consider in your tax planning all the decisions that you make. You should be careful not to get into a transaction that will jeopardize your planning. Step 6. Create or expand your business in Puerto Rico. Well, why do I say expand? Because this is not a law just for people that want to relocate their business to Puerto Rico. I actually have clients, local clients like Abarca Health, that have expanded their operations to the United States and have acquired an Act 20. And this is very important because, as one of the speakers mentioned, this whole Act 20 program is changing the mindset in terms of what Puerto Rico entrepreneurs can do. So you decide, like in every other jurisdiction, you decide to start a business, and the first thing you consider is what's my vehicle? What's the, do I use a corporation? Do I use an LLC? And I want to clarify that Act 20 provides that the applicant should be an entity. Therefore, although you're providing services, and many people are used to provide services personally as a service provider, that will not allow them to apply. They need to have a legal entity as the law is drafted right now. You create the entity. Since Puerto Rico does not have a register, you have to register with the IRS. And you have to register with the Puerto Rico Treasury Department. You have to obtain Merchants Register Certificate. And I should add, you have to open a bank account. Step 7. Well, I have my business in place. What do? You apply for the benefits. And what I need to know in terms of applying for the benefits. In terms of procedural matters, you need to know that the governmental agency that is in charge of evaluating and granting the tax decrease is the Office of Industrial Tax Exemption, and that they have created a platform in which the applicants can provide most of the information that is needed in order to obtain the benefits and allow them to evaluate the eligibility of the business. Pursuant to Act 20, the term in which the process, how long the process takes, is approximately 45 days. However, considering all the new applications, as Alberto said, it's triple the amount of the applications last year. It's taking a little bit longer. But you don't need to worry about that if you start your business immediately, because the effectiveness of the benefits are retroactive to the date of application. So either you can choose to commence operations once you file, or if you desire so, you can wait until you get the tax decree. Applications filed after November 30, 2015 have a minimum employment have a minimum employment of 5 employees residing in Puerto Rico. As I mentioned, Puerto Rico has relied for many years in incentive laws to promote economic development and create employment. So the employment creation is basically the consideration for all these benefits. And you don't need to create 5 employees immediately. The Office of Industrial Tax Exemption and the Economic Department have issued a circular letter stating that you have a 2-year span to get to 5 employees and grow your business gradually. The tax decree must be accepted and commencement of operations notified. And then you have to file an annual report with the Office of Industrial Tax Exemption, and you will be subject to an audit every 2 years. After you file, the negotiations commence. There are some times that the Office of Industrial Tax Exemption will require you to provide additional information so that it can confirm that in fact the services are eligible. And they need to understand your business. Remember that this is a contract between the government and the service provider. Therefore, there is a negotiation involved. Step 8, accept the benefits and commence operations. This sounds a little bit obvious, accept the decree, but you'd be surprised that I've had individuals coming to me that they forgot about the date, they didn't accept the decree in time, and the decree was revoked. Fortunately, in that case, I was able to negotiate the reopening of the case. However, it's a step that needs to be taken in order for the tax decree to commence and be effective. As I mentioned before,